Good morning, everyone. Today, we'll delve into a critical environmental issue: global warming and its effects on atolls. To begin, let's define global warming. It's the long-term increase in Earth's average surface temperature due to human activities, primarily the release of greenhouse gases. Now, what are atolls, and why are they important? Atolls are ring-shaped coral reefs that encircle a lagoon, often with small, low-lying islands. They're vital ecosystems and serve as homes to unique marine life. Atolls are fascinating geographical formations. Picture a ring of coral reef with an interior lagoon. These formations can be found in various parts of the world, and they're often seen as paradise-like destinations. Global warming is causing the polar ice caps and glaciers to melt, contributing to the rise in sea levels worldwide. Rising sea levels pose a significant threat to low-lying atolls, which are vulnerable due to their limited elevation above sea level. Atolls are made up of coral reefs and islands, and as sea levels rise, they face increased risk of erosion and inundation. The intrusion of saltwater into freshwater sources on atolls can threaten the availability of drinking water and harm fragile ecosystems. As sea levels continue to rise, the long-term survival of atolls and the communities that depend on them is at risk, emphasizing the urgent need for climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies. Coral bleaching is a phenomenon where corals expel the colorful algae living within their tissues, causing them to turn white. It occurs primarily due to rising sea temperatures and environmental stress, disrupting the mutualistic relationship between corals and algae. Coral bleaching can lead to coral death, which has profound ecological and economic consequences for marine ecosystems and the communities that depend on them. Atolls are particularly susceptible to climate change. Their low-lying nature makes them vulnerable to rising sea levels, extreme weather events, coral bleaching, and ocean acidification. Ocean acidification is the ongoing process of the ocean's pH decreasing due to the absorption of excess carbon dioxide, CO2, from the atmosphere. As CO2 dissolves in seawater, it forms carbonic acid, which lowers the pH and reduces the availability of carbonate ions, essential for shell-forming organisms like corals, mollusks, and some plankton. This acidification affects marine ecosystems by making it harder for organisms to build and maintain their calcium carbonate shells and skeletons, leading to weaker and more vulnerable marine life. Ocean acidification also disrupts the food web, impacting species that rely on calcium carbonate structures and potentially causing cascading effects throughout the marine environment. Addressing ocean acidification requires reducing CO2 emissions and implementing strategies to protect vulnerable marine species and ecosystems from its harmful effects. Global warming intensifies extreme weather events, such as storms and cyclones. These events can cause extensive damage to atoll communities. Atolls are unique and diverse ecosystems, characterized by a combination of coral reefs, lagoons, and small islands, supporting a wide array of marine and terrestrial life. These ecosystems host numerous species of corals, fish, mollusks, and other organisms, creating intricate and delicate food webs and habitats. Global warming poses a severe threat to the biodiversity on atolls, primarily through rising sea levels and increasing sea surface temperatures. Rising sea levels can lead to habitat loss, as higher waters can submerge the islands and coral reefs, displacing and endangering species that depend on these habitats. Elevated sea temperatures can trigger coral bleaching events, disrupting the foundation of the atoll ecosystems and further threatening the survival of the diverse life forms that rely on them. Mitigating climate change is essential for preserving the biodiversity of atolls and the intricate ecosystems they support. Atoll communities often live in harmony with their surroundings, relying on the ocean for sustenance and livelihoods. However, they are directly impacted by global warming-induced changes. To address these challenges, communities and governments are developing strategies for adapting to rising sea levels and mitigating climate change globally. Collaboration is essential. The Maldives, a nation of low-lying atolls in the Indian Ocean, faces severe threats from global warming, including rising sea levels that endanger its coastal communities and infrastructure. Kiribati, a Pacific island nation, is grappling with the consequences of global warming as increasing sea levels erode its atolls, contaminate freshwater sources, and displace residents. The Marshall Islands in the Pacific Ocean have experienced saltwater intrusion due to rising sea levels, affecting agriculture and threatening the livelihoods of islanders. Tuvalu, another Pacific island nation, is vulnerable to global warming impacts, with rising sea levels posing significant challenges, including coastal erosion and inundation. These real-world examples underscore the urgent need for climate action to protect atoll nations and their communities. The urgency of addressing global warming is paramount to safeguard atolls, as they are particularly vulnerable to its adverse effects. Rising sea levels, driven by global warming, pose an imminent threat to the very existence of atoll nations and their communities. Ecosystems on atolls are fragile, and the disruption caused by global warming can lead to irreversible damage to biodiversity and marine life. The displacement of populations from atolls due to sea level rise would result in humanitarian crises and place additional stress on neighboring countries. Immediate action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and implement adaptation measures is essential to ensure the survival of atolls and the protection of their unique ecosystems and cultures. In conclusion, we've seen how global warming poses a severe threat to atolls and their communities. Addressing global warming is not only an environmental imperative but also a humanitarian one. Thank you all for your attention today. If you'd like to explore this topic further or have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My contact information is on the next slide.